or you have already helped at least one person, and that's me. And I thank you. Okay. All right. So
I didn't want you to feel any pressure, but
no,
I wanted people to be exposed to you. I mean,
thank you.
You're Mr. Aloha, and you bring a dimension to this series that we're doing. That's like you said. We've had so many wonderful conversations where we just laugh and talk about something we did when we were young, or some music that we like, or whatever. And you've got a very, very upbeat, communicative nature, but you care about other people. I mean, you greatly care about other people. So I knew that there'd be some real good come out of this. And you're starting now, and so I didn't mean to put you in there. I just trying to compliment you to say you're a person that I would love to have in this. But thank you for accepting that. Yeah. Hey, I want to tell you, when I talked to my wife about what we're going to do the show on, and I read her what you first wrote me. Now, your title might be better than mine. Mine is "Don't Want to, Don't Say It." That was just kind of like a like I don't know what you call it, like a real quick kind of hit, a catchy phrase for a title. And mine's like "Don't want to, don't say it." If you don't want to, then don't say it in the first place. That's kind of what I'm trying to say.
Exactly.
But yours, when I told her that what your point was that you got out of 159, she said, well, that's exactly right. She says, people say things that they don't really want to do, and then they just kind of blow it off like, well, I ain't going to do it because I didn't really want to do it in the first place. So the underlying question is, well, why'd you say it in the first place? Learn to control that. But here's what your title was after you put some thought into it and made a suggestion. Making want work for you when you're not wanting to. And that's really what we're going to get into here is like, if you really don't want to do it, but then you end up doing it, and it may have a positive benefit for you that did it and for others. And that's what I guess you were trying to say, that, well, you're pretty busy these days and you weren't sure you really wanted to do it, but you knew that I'd asked you, so you wanted to do it for your buddy Steve. But so what does it really mean, making want work for you when you're not wanting to?
Yeah, okay. Well, let's talk about that. Let's go back for a minute. And first, we have a person who realizes that he or she has this character flaw of not doing what they say they're going to do. And they consciously hope to practice ways to overcome this flawed personality trait. The next step, I believe, would be to realize the possible number one reason they do not want to follow through, which again is because they don't want to. There's that word again. Want's going to keep popping up all the way through this, because as a rule, people will do exactly what they want to do. We both know that. So the first question I believe they must ask themselves if they want to get help is, how can I make myself want to carry through with this obligation? Once they realize that is the problem, is they realize, okay, I said I would do this, but now I don't want to because I just don't want to for one reason or another. In order to come up with a method that would work every time, I think he or she must look at what motivates them. So sometimes sometimes they do an internal search that might yield some personal motivators. I have made a quick list of 4 simple things that motivate people. And like there's hundreds of them, of course. But let's take number 1, just real quick. There's just real simple, basic. As a rule, usually at the top of the list is money. However, that does not always work, nor does it always apply. But money is a good motivator. Number 2, some people, making someone happy could be a factor. Some are motivated by the fact that they can make others happy, like their spouse, for example. Number 3 is some get motivated by a feeling they get from helping someone. This can also be a factor. Number 4, recognition, for example. Some people are motivated by the thought that they're going to be recognized. Like I said, of course, there's hundreds of examples depending on the person. What we're going to do is look for the benefit. Here is a question they have to ask themselves. What is my benefit, or in some cases, the overall benefit of me following through with this obligation? As I said, Steve, I'm a pretty basic guy, and personally, I learn best by example. Therefore, I'm big on examples. No matter how simple, actually, the simpler the better, really. So let's say you're a person who's motivated by, let's take making someone happy. You just love to see folks smile after what you have done. A simple, basic grade school example might be something as simple as your wife asks you to take the trash out by 5:30. You look up and it's 6 o'clock. It's raining. And you say to yourself, there's that word again, I don't want to take the trash out. I just don't want to. And so you stop right there and you look for the benefit. So in your mind's eye, can you see your wife smiling when you come back in a few minutes, possibly dripping from some rain? And, sometimes it can be that simple. The smile alone I know in my case, her smile alone would make me want to do it. It'd make me want to go take that trash out and come back and see her smile rather than the alternative. So there's just one little simple example. Let's try another one. Let's say that you're a person that's you're motivated by helping others. So another simple grade school example might be as simple as your neighbor asks you if you mind helping him move something around, or move a swing set in his backyard this coming weekend. Maybe it's a big giant swing set and requires taking some part of it apart before moving and so on. So Friday night comes along, he calls you and he says, can we move it tomorrow? And you say, yes, sure, happy to help. Then the next Saturday comes along and you realize it's a really nice day, you have something else you'd much rather do. So the normal thing would be to start searching around for excuses to get out of the commitment. Stop right there. Stop right there. And remember, you are motivated by helping others. That is one of your motivating factors, by helping others. So you suddenly have something, even though you suddenly have something you would rather do. So what you want to try to do is hear in your mind's eye your neighbor saying, thank you so much. I could have never have done this without you. Let me know if there's anything I can ever do for you. Thanks again. And he's smiling. Sometimes it can be that simple. However, it's visualization of the benefit that counts and sometimes moves you forward. So is that making any sense thus far a little bit? What I'm trying to get at here?
Again, like I said, I'm trying to do a study on this with a lot of people who I respect their opinions and their wisdom. But you cut right through the mustard. I mean, picture that. Picture mustard and a knife and cutting right through it. It's a mess. No, you got it distilled down to, I thought that what I was talking about people don't always do what they say they're going to do, was about as basic as you can get. Anybody can relate to that. Anybody can relate from one angle or another. But what you're saying is what I think is the most basic part of the whole equation. If somebody doesn't want to do something, they're probably not going to do it. There are people, though, that I wanted to respond to you, that they put others first. And even though they don't want to, ultimately they do want to, because it's for others. And it's like, it wouldn't be something that I really feel like doing. Like, you want to go to this chick flick with your wife that's just this real, emotional girly movie? No, a girly movie is a guy kind of thing. But no, you want to go to this real nice movie that girls generally like, take out a tissue and cry. And maybe you wanted to go to a different kind of movie. But you know what? My advice to all the young men out there, old men too, do what your wife wants to do, because you'll be a lot happier, But you're a country western kind of guy. When mama's happy, everybody's happy. You know what I mean? But so you ultimately wanted to do something that you didn't really want to do at first because it was for someone else.
Sure.
I'm going to slip in my first scripture of the day because it's important here.
Okay.
Philippians 2:3-4. Do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit, but with humility of mind, regard one another as more important than yourselves. Do not merely look out for your own personal interests, but also for the interests of others. I think that's the most beautiful thing. You know, when you're selfless, you do for others. And isn't that really what we're talking about here is how do you break the cycle of I only do what I want to do? Because a person that's like that, hey, some people didn't like it that when I did the first show and I said people that don't do what they say are going to do, it's a form of lying. And then other people came along and said, yeah, I know, Steve, but, you know, they just didn't know how to tell you no and stuff like that. All that's true. But if somebody says they're going to do something and they don't, then that's a falsehood. And a falsehood is an untruth. And an untruth is a lie. So I can keep on that conversation. But in this case, I'm not saying that everybody that doesn't do for others is completely selfish, but maybe they are. You know, I'm introducing the concept that if you only want to do for yourself and not put others before yourself, then maybe you're somewhat self-centered and selfish. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to comment on your scripture because that ties right into the last motivating factor of helping people.
Mm-hmm.
So your scripture and what I was just talking about, you put that in a perfect time because some people are motivated by the fact that they get a thrill, a feeling of importance by helping other people. Let's try another one here. Let's say that you're the person that's motivated by recognition. So let's get down to another grade school example so we can try to figure out how you could motivate yourself and make you want to do something that you said you'd do, and now all of a sudden you don't want to. Let's say a colleague asks you to volunteer at a food drive, for example. He tells you right up front that there's going to be a dinner given for the volunteers. So you have the same scenario. The day comes around and all of a sudden you have something else to do. So you start thinking of excuses. Stop right there. In your mind's eye, you want to picture this dinner and even picture them possibly calling your name and you get to stand up so everyone can recognize you. Now you're having that feeling of importance. And sometimes that feeling of importance is more valuable than recognition. Most people love to feel they're important. I forget who said it or how it was said, but it was said something like this, that there's some men and women will do more and work harder for recognition and the feeling of importance than they will for the wage itself. I think it's actually been proven. So that feeling of importance, sometimes when it comes to helping people as well as being recognized, that can be an incredible motivational factor. I sometimes use the example of a homeless camp where you have a bunch of homeless people. Even in a homeless camp, you'll have a leader. This leader has that feeling of importance that he's helping his people. So it doesn't matter what walk of life you're in, everybody likes a feeling of importance. So now then I saved the money one for last, because as I said in the beginning, it doesn't always work. However, it's pretty cut and dry. You know, if you're a person that's motivated by money and you can see a financial gain in any way, then you can use that for your motivating factor. While on the subject of money and want, I'm going to share a personal example of something I wanted. Now, money played a role, however, not in the normal sense of the word. It's a little story I'll just throw out here. I hope I don't bore you, but there was a certain rock and roll band had just released this beautiful lithograph of a concert they had at the Red Rocks in Colorado. It was a real large lithograph, very impressive. So I called the purveyor. He was in Oklahoma or Kansas or somewhere. Anyway, and I asked him if I could get one of the band members to inscribe it to me in a certain way. He